Hey there, everybody. Recently took a trip to Alaska, and in that process, I had to decide what kind of camera gear that I wanted to take on this 10-day adventure to Alaska. Now, you would think that, bigger is better and take everything and throw the kitchen sink at it, but it was a real decision-making process, and I learned a lot. So I'd really like to share how that all panned out and my decision-making process and all that stuff from, a rookie content creator to you. So let's get into it. All right, so like I mentioned in the intro, I went on a vacation. I went to Alaska, and I've never been to Alaska, and from everything I've read, it's stunning. And so with the landscape and all the different things, the activities you can do, I really wanted to capture that. And as a fledgling content creator, I had the tools, I have multiple tools that I can choose from for doing just what I wanted to do. But you've got to fly. And so you can't take everything. So that started the decision-making process. So I had to decide what is most important and what is least important. So of course I started off with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera because I've got a Canon T7i and I've got a Fuji XS10. Now those are awesome cameras, but did I want to take a large body camera and multiple lenses on this trip, have to pack it, carry it through an airport, or possibly put it in my luggage and risk it getting broken? Because I knew it would take great pictures and great video, but was that the only tool that would do that for me? So I decided a large body camera was not what I wanted to take. So I canceled that out. So what's next? What other tools do I have available? Well, I've got a DJI Osmo Pocket. But again, that as much as it does fit in your pocket and it has 4K capability, I didn't really feel that that was the best option for what I wanted to do, only because I wanted something where I could really see what it was I was capturing in the moment. And so I needed something with a bigger screen. I didn't want to have to connect it to a phone all the time. So I excluded that option. So what did I end up going with? Well, I decided that, let me back up. I also thought about taking a Sony point and shoot, but again, even though it's got a great zoom, I wasn't sure how well it was going to handle the cold weather and how sturdy it was going to be when you're out on a snowmobile or a dog sled and you've got it in your pocket, you take it out. How hard would it be to use with gloves on, that kind of stuff? So I said, you know what? Less is more. I won't take that one, but I did take my Fuji FinePix camera. It's a XP90 and it's an action cam. It's rated for colder temperatures, water, dust, that kind of stuff. So that's what I took. That was not the best decision, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I decided to take that point and shoot. The other cameras I decided to take were a GoPro Hero 10 and a GoPro Hero 7 Black. Okay. Now I took the Hero 7 Black, even though it's older, because it's reliable. I knew what I was getting going in. I knew exactly how it would behave, so to speak. And so that was my safe bet. Now I wasn't so sure how it would react to colder weather, but I did know that as long as I kept it warm, kept it in a pocket, a backpack, I knew what kind of images I could get out of it. So plus I have a lot of accessories that work well with it. So I knew that one was probably going to be in that B to B plus range. But the GoPro 10 is a newer camera and it does come with its set of issues, glitches and whatnot. And I did experience some of those on this trip. And again, I'll get back into that in a minute. But I knew that if it were to work, this would be a great option because it's 5.7K. And even if I didn't use that, even if I used the 4K, that would be a really good image. So I took my iPhone, I took the Fuji point and shoot, and the two action cameras. So, how did they work? Let's start with the Fujifilm because that's the oldest camera of the bunch. And while it kind of worked, the camera itself was fine. The battery was the issue. As soon as I took that camera out and tried to video with it, or record any kind of video, the battery automatically went to red. I could take pictures with it, but it's only an 18 megapixel, 16 megapixel camera, so they're not going to be great images, smaller sensor. But I really wanted it for the video because it's chunkier, it's bigger to hold in your hand, can use it with gloves. And so I was really optimistic that because it's an adventure camera, that it would work better. But the battery it dropped as soon as I turned it on. So the first time I used it, I got a couple pictures, some video, and then that was it. It was done. I didn't take it out again. The iPhone, like I mentioned earlier, worked wonderfully. Even in the cold weather, kept that in an exterior pocket on my coat. I could pull it out, use it. Battery life never took a hit. The normal battery, I don't want to say degradation, but the battery life on the phone was normal. I'll put that, the normal battery drain. When you video or take pictures, normal. There wasn't a significant drop just because it was cold. So that was fantastic. Wonderful pictures. I'll throw a couple of them up as we're talking just so you can see. The images were stunning. And there's a lot of controls within an iPhone. And plus I've got a couple other video/photography apps. So I can shoot in RAW and do a couple interesting things. So that was a real win. I was very skeptical as to whether or not that was going to work just because of the cold weather. Worked great. Now the action cameras, the 7 worked just as I had envisioned, worked great, but I wanted to use the 10 more, and the couple times that I did use it, I got a cold weather warning, even though I got the Enduro battery. If you know anything about GoPros and the GoPro 10, the new Enduro battery is supposed to be the one that's rated for colder temperatures. It's supposed to last longer. It's supposed to help you get the most out of your GoPro 10. Now, as soon as I used it a couple times, and it was probably 0 to -10 degree weather, I got a cold weather warning and the battery started to drain. And so I was able to capture some pictures, but I relied heavily on my iPhone. So that's the real crux of this whole video. Despite all the other cameras that I could have taken, and I was with a couple that took their very fancy Nikon DSLR, and just watching them have to deal with this while they're on a snowmobile, while they were dog sledding, while they're walking on a glacier, took great images, but having to fumble around with it with gloves and try to get really good images and keep the lens from fogging up because you put it in a case, you take it out and all these things, it seemed way too challenging and there was way too much going on for me to really enjoy it. So I'm glad that I didn't bring my DSLR because that would have been just too much work because I wanted to participate in what was going on more than be the photographer. Now, what I will segue into is that capturing photographs and video while traveling is not easy. The one thing that stands out in my mind, and it's the same whether you're on a trip or you're at home with family and friends, that if you're wanting to capture these moments, whether in a picture or a video, you have to stop participating in order to do the recording. You'll see content creators on YouTube where they're walking along and they've got their cameras set up and it shows them walking and it shows where they're at all in the background. It looks great. It's very cinematic. But the problem is all the background work that's involved to make that happen. You have to stop. You have to put your camera wherever you're going to put it. You have to back up. Well, first you have to make sure you got all the settings dialed in. Then you got to back up. You got to walk. Then you got to go back, circle, get the camera, make sure you got what you wanted. If you didn't, you got to do it again. And then you got to stop, and then you got to regain the group that you're with and continue on your vacation. And it's the same thing when you're doing just about, I mean, I see content creators, they have drone footage, and I contemplated taking my drone, but I didn't want to stop what I was doing to have to, deal with this drone flying around. Even though I could have gotten some epic shots, it was more important to me to be involved with what was going on and be in that moment than it was pressing a button or dealing with a remote. So that was one of my takeaways. The other takeaway is when you're out there doing what you're wanting to do, you don't have time, especially when it's cold. You don't have time to be dealing with settings. There were a couple times where I pulled out my GoPro and I started filming and I had it on the wrong settings. For example, I was on the snowmobile, and I'm going to put this up. I was on the snowmobile and I had one of those chesty mounts. So I had my GoPro and I'm being very proactive. I've got everything set up and I go click, got it started, and man, I'm going. And all it took was an image of the dashboard because I didn't have it set on extra wide, see my fingers? So I didn't have it set on extra wide, so you really couldn't see what was going on. I had it set for narrow. And that's not the purpose of a GoPro unless you're doing something like this. So a couple times that happened. So my encouragement to you, if you're going to try to capture a vacation, check those settings the night before. Do yourself a favor, check all that, get it set up, because you don't want to be dealing with that while you're in the middle of what it is you're doing. So final thoughts, regrets. I forgot to mention, do I have the camera? Yeah. I also took this Go 2. Is that upside down? It is. I also took my Insta360 Go 2, and that, I got to tell you, was pretty decent. With all the exterior coats, it was easy to knock off, so that was a concern. But on the trip, going from my house to the airport and then the airport to the Airbnb, that was the best because I could just put it on this magnet, and you guys have seen all this, the lanyard. Put that under your shirt, connect your camera to it. And so I was able to get some really cool first-person video, FPV footage that really helped enhance my video. So that was good. That was worth taking. That was excellent. But final thoughts, I do regret not having my DSLR because there were some pictures that I really wish I could have captured. But in the overall scheme of things, I think it would have been just too much. It would have taken away from what I was trying to do with my family. So if I go on a trip where it's not cold and where I can drive, definitely taking my DSLR, because again, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to take those pictures and the video better than a GoPro or your phone. So yeah, that was it. I learned a lot. It was very, very exciting. Really enjoyed the vacation, but trying to create content on the road. And one other thing I'll just throw in there, trying to manage all of your data, all of your footage. That became a little bit, I took my laptop, that became a little more challenging. Trying to get everything downloaded so that the next day you have a clean SD card to use, especially with my Go 2. That proved to be problematic. I had to do everything by USB-C because I couldn't do the Wi-Fi connection for whatever reason. It would not work. And so that was a challenge. So again, practice, learn different techniques and ways to get that footage transferred so that when you're out and about, if plan A doesn't work, you got a plan B. So be good at what you do. And that's it. That's all I got for you today. And hey, thanks so much for tuning in today and watching this podcast. It's not a podcast, this vlog. And if this is the kind of content that you enjoy, just a rookie, an amateur, kind of walking through this content creation thing and helping you out along the way. If that's the kind of thing you like, become a subscriber. Really appreciate that. So hey, this is Mike, Low Def Media. So until the next one, we'll see you later.